you all again to another episode of Folklore and Culture. And today we are going to speak about colonial misrepresentation of Karbi tribe. Colonial politics of labeling communities have had disastrous consequences which continue to impact the lives of the colonized. Identities were created and circulated through the act, which in turn had categorized, included, and excluded communities living in the colonial fringes. So, Karbis were contradictorily labeled heathen, worshippers of malignant demons, unwarlike, timid, coward, bloodthirsty, and such other colonial vocabularies which continue to haunt them. Colonial authorities persisted with misnomer Mikir over the ancient indigenous nomenclature Karbi, again trying to systematically erase identities, and the label remained in force for centuries. Colonial categorization of Karbis into hill and plains simply because of the geographical locations continues to divide and distance the tribe psychologically, socially, culturally, and politically. So, who are Karbis and what went wrong with their representation? The Karbis mentioned as Mikirs in Constitution Order Government of India constitute an important ethnic group in the hill areas of Assam. However, they never call themselves Mikir but call themselves Karbi and sometimes Arleng, which literally means a man. Although at present they are found to inhabit in the Karbi Anglong district, nevertheless some Karbis inhabit in the North Kachar Hills, Kamrup, Morigaon, Nagaon, Sonitpur district as well. So let us understand in details where they come from and what is their history. So racially, the Karbis belong to the Mongolite group and linguistically, they belong to the Tibeto-Burman group. The original home of the various people speaking Tibeto-Burman languages was in western China near the Yangtze Kiang and Huangho rivers. And from these places, they went down the courses of Brahmaputra, the Chindwin and the Irrawaddy, and entered India and Burma. The Karbis, along others, entered Assam from the Central Asia in one of the waves of migration. But it is very difficult to trace the history of early settlements of the Karbis because there are no written documents. Even evidences like archaeological remains are also not available. So, of course, in old chronicles and occasional references, we can find these traces of chronological events with respect to the Karbis. The folk tales and folklores are the only sources from which it can have an idea regarding their earlier history. So, the folklores of the Karbis, however, indicate that during the long past, once they used to live on the banks of the rivers Kalang and Kapili in the entire Kaziranga area, and the famous national park situated in Assam was within their habitation. During the reigns of Kachari kings, they were driven to the hills, and some of them entered into Jaintia hills and into the Jaintia kingdom overall. So, while a section of the Karbis remained in Jaintia kingdom, others moved to the northeast by crossing the river Barapani, a tributary of Kapili, and entered to Rongthang ranges. So there they established their capital at the place called Socheng. Those who continued to live under the Jaintia king had to face constant harassment at the hands of Jaintiyas and had compelled them to migrate northward. A good number of them had entered into the home territory and prayed for protection from Barpukan at Raha. Thus, migration took place at the beginning of 17th century. The Karbis who migrated to the home kingdom had to face Burmese invasion, and the Burmese who invaded Assam perpetrated inhumane oppression of the people that we all know. The Karbis took refuge in the deep jungles and high hills, leaving their herd and their home in the sub-mountain regions. In order to save themselves from the greedy eyes of the Burmese invaders, even the young Karbi girls started to use a black line from the forehead to the chin, which is known as duk. And this was done with a view of making themselves look ugly. While some of the Karbis migrated to lower Assam, some had crossed Brahmaputra and settled in the North Bank region. So, let us now understand what was the Eurocentric representation. The Karbis, having been singled out of being unambitious, cowardly, wanting in martial spirits, and taken advantage of being unwarlike and peaceful. Many of the colonizers, and out of which the first ethnographers called Sir Charles James Loyal and Edward Stack, wrote about Karbis and called them mild and unwarlike, who asserted that Mikid have never been a warlike race. On the other hand, the American Baptist missionaries described the Karbis as demon worshippers and labeled them as savage and bloodthirsty. This myth has persisted and disadvantaged the Karbis in more ways as independent India has retained the similar framework with active conspiracy of the state of Assam. It is unfortunate that the impact of colonial labeling of Karbis to question the modern myth of how backwardness is measured in terms of laziness, peacefulness with timidity, and unwarlike with racial inferiority, and how these invented categories have traumatized them completely. The colonizers in the report summed up the Mekirs appear to have no government, nor can it be imagined for what purpose people could require government who have abandoned the idea of defending themselves or their property. They also labeled the tribe of the region as savage tribes and naked savages. That invariably includes the Mekirs. In fact, the label savage finds regular mention in almost all colonial and missionary accounts that describe the hill tribes of the Northeast. Now we need to understand what is the truth. The traditional village council of the Karbis is called Me, and this council is composed of all elderly male members of the village. The council is presided by the Sarthe or Gaon-Bura, the village headman. So all the village disputes which are not of a very grave or serious nature are settled in through this council. And the Me plays an important role in regulating the social, economic, religious life of the village. However, the Me has lost its original footing in the present context. Now people prefer to go to law courts and instead of referring to disputes at the village council. This proves they had a strong internal administrative system. Another thing which is kind of unfortunate and sad is the history of opium trade in the regions. So by 1860, The opium trade became a government monopoly, criminalizing non-licensed cultivation of opium. Licenses were sold to respectable persons who offered the highest bid. There appeared a lot of opium shops, almost more than 5,000 opium shops in 1873 to 1874 period, surpassing the number of villages in Assam. Opium revenue increased in leaps and bounds from 1875 to 1879. Colonial government defended its policy by claiming that opium was required by people in order to protect themselves from the diseases that are prevalent in the very damp malarial climate like Assam. So, as a result, the consumption of opium far surpassed the Indian average and much higher in quantity that was set by League nations. And Assam was declared a black spot, where the consumption was highest during 1920 to 1921. And the largest consumers were the Karbi tribe, of whom 80 to 85% of the population ate opium, according to the final report of Royal Commission on Opium. So the colonial government basically actively promoted opium sale, and Karbis were defenseless against the assault, which ruined them permanently. Negative labels and implications can disempower groups through creation of potent negative stereotypes, and can thus be a powerful means of exercising social control and as a tool to manipulate identities. Unfortunate, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. If you like my content, please like, share and subscribe so that I can reach as many people as possible to create this awareness of how subalternity of certain communities have shunned them and silenced them for centuries now.